Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
All right, this is episode 34 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. We've got some trade talk to get in today for a couple high-profile players on the Bengals and Browns, respectively. Also, weirdly enough, the Bengals and Browns actually had uniform leaks, both around the same time, and potential uniform leaks. We don't know if this is the real thing, but that's why they call them leaks and not, confirmations. But we got some uniform talk to talk about for both teams, which is, kind of interesting that happened at right about the same time. I am back from vacation this week, and me and my wife, we went to Virginia Beach over the week. And actually fun. On the way, it was fun. It was awesome. On the way, one of our stops to kind of break up the driving so we don't have to drive like 12 hours in one night. Mm-hmm. We actually stopped up in Pittsburgh and got a pretty nice hotel up there. And it was actually a pretty nice time. And I will personally admit that Primanti's has some kick-ass food. Like, y'all do some, good-ass roast beef up there. I'll admit that. The pastrami in particular, I really like that. But while I was up there, I had a lot of fun reminding myself that the Steelers still suck.
Yeah, you probably had a great view of the stadium, so you could see how bad the Steelers still suck. Did you also see Ben Roethlisberger on the bench chilling?
No, but I went down to obviously not. Some say that he's still there crying.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it doesn't work out.
I didn't personally get to see that, although I did. I went down to I don't know where I was at, but it was like this open market that took up like an entire city street. It kind of reminded me of like Findlay Market up here in Cincinnati, or I don't know if you guys have like an open air market up there in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But it was that kind of thing, except it took up a whole city street. And this one shop had a picture of Ben Roethlisberger, like a drawn picture of Ben Roethlisberger, getting ready to throw a football. It was like, they were obviously celebrating Ben Roethlisberger. And I know the man's had a great career, but I just kind of started laughing. I'm like, they're stuck with him as quarterback.
It's kind of funny.
Which, I mean, again, he's had a great
career. Mason Rudolph.
I hate to admit it, but he's going to be in the Hall of Fame most likely, and that fills me with disgust. But right now, honestly, he should probably retire because, the more he plays at his current ability level, the more he's just going to kind of, leave a skid mark at the end of his legacy.
Ben Roethlisberger is the NFL version of Eminem.
I completely disagree with that. I actually like a lot of Eminem's new work.
Oh, wait, you do? For real?
Yeah, well, I haven't heard the most recent album, but I really like Kamikaze.
You like Kamikaze?
I love Kamikaze. I'm a
Kyle.
Kamikaze crashing over everything.
Oh, Kyle.
Also, Marshall Mathers 2 was one of my favorite.
I like Marshall Mathers album too. I like Marshall Mathers Part 2. I like that one. I actually love that album. I thought that was his farewell album. Anything. The problem is to me, nothing after that album mattered. For me, that was the end of Eminem's career for me. Was Marshall Mathers LP Part 2.
Well, I will admit, I do kind of have trouble. Even though I like Kamikaze, I will admit it everything he's done since Marshall Mathers 2 has felt extremely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Except for that feud he had with MGK, that made the news for a sec.
Yeah, that was
it was kind of funny.
Oh my God, MGK tweeted about my daughter.
I don't know. I thought both of them had lame ass tracks. I didn't like either one of them, honestly.
Me neither. I thought they both were whack too. I agree.
I mean, I thought MGK kind of embarrassed himself, but honestly, I think Eminem should have just been I'm not even gonna bother. He shouldn't have even given them the time of day, honestly.
it wasn't a good moment for either one of those rappers because like it's just like one never reached his prime and the other one past his prime. It's like, what are we listening to?
It's funny because like Eminem's got that I forget which song, but he's got that he talked a lot about like in his earlier work about like, don't ever let me become the old rapper who's just
till I collapse.
Like,
yeah,
exactly, till I collapse.
Literally.
I mean, like I said, I liked Kamikaze, but I did hear a bit of Music to Be Murdered By, but I wasn't feeling most of it. A lot of it felt like him just kind of like trying to hop onto like the new style of like hip hop, which just isn't his thing.
Yeah, you can tell he's just like
Like it feels like he's trying to like fit like square peg round hole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah. Hopefully Eminem don't watch this and then diss us. Oh my God!
Well, no, you know what? I'll tell you what. If Eminem disses us, I'll be okay with that.
I'll be okay with that.
Some good publicity.
Oh, all right.
That's probably honestly that's probably what MGK was doing. He was like, if I diss Eminem, I'm going to get a hell of a lot of publicity.
Come at me, Eminem. I'm waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Come at me, bro.
What you gonna do? Do you think I'm afraid of Detroit? I'm from Cleveland, the land.
I'm in a metal band. We'll I'll write a song about dismembering. Well, no, wait, shit, you already do that. Fuck. Got a lot of Eminem songs that work great as metal songs.
Yeah, sure. All right, let's actually start talking about football now.
All right. So anyway, like I said earlier, we kind of there's a couple trade ideas that we kind of wanted to talk about on this episode. In particular, now just a disclaimer, we want to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. with the Browns. For what it's worth, Kevin Stefanski seems pretty intent on not getting rid of Odell Beckham Jr. He said on ESPN radio that Odell Beckham Jr. is part of the team's plans going forward, and the way he said it kind of made you seem like it. Like it wasn't like just some coach just like it's coach speak or whatever. It really seemed like Kevin Stefanski really wanted this guy on his team.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it could be a smokescreen. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to happen. But just hypothetically, let's talk about it because I think the Browns would do better off trading Odell Beckham Jr. So if the Browns were to do that, Thomas, what do you think the Browns should be looking for to get in reception for him?
Okay, again, I do not ever want the Browns to ever trade Odell Beckham Jr. because I am infatuated with the fact that he scored 4 touchdowns. And, okay, Odell, I love you, man. I love you, man. I just want you to know that. Like, I love you, Odell. It hurts me that I got to talk about this. But these are the talking points in football right now. So we have to talk about this. I don't think the Browns are going to trade Odell. Now, if there was a hypothetical trade scenario for Odell Beckham, these are my demands. This is a deep receiver free agency. This is a deep receiver draft. The Browns do need some kind of receiver that can stretch the field. So if, for example, the team that probably give it the most for Odell Beckham would probably be a team like Tampa Bay. Personally, we traded first round for Odell. I would love to have a first round for Odell. Realistically, that's not going to happen because Odell Beckham's coming off ACL injury, but he still has his name. And so you might be able to get a high asking price from a team like Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay were to call me and ask me if they want Odell, in order for it to be a conversation, first they got to at least offer them either me their first round pick or second round pick. I would love the first round pick, but they give me the second round pick, I would still listen. Second round pick. And I want their best. I want a defensive player off Tampa Bay. I want somebody that help my defense. Cause I ain't giving them up for nothing. I want somebody. I want one of your defensive players. Somebody that you're trying to get rid of, or somebody you're not ready to pay. Who was the There's somebody I think they decided that's a franchise tag actually. I want one of your defensive players, man. I want one of your best defensive players, or somebody that could put depth in my defense.
So defensive player plus what?
A second round, defensive player and a second round pick, and probably throw in a 5th round pick in there or something like that.
So
That's how high. But you gotta keep. I'm gonna keep my asking price high because I'm gonna make my team worse. Because you get rid of Odell Beckham, making your offense worse. If I'm gonna make my team worse, I'm gonna want a really good return for it.
Okay,
But
so how about this? Disclaimer: I don't want Odell Beckham Jr. I do not want him on the Bengals. This is just an idea I'm throwing out there to gauge where Thomas is. Okay, I do not want Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think he's good locker room presence. I don't think he's particularly, I think he'd be a terrible fit for Joe Burrow. Thomas, you can sit here and say, like, I love you, Odell. Don't be mad at me, but I don't like you, Odell. Now, I'm a Bengals fan, so you probably just take that as motivation and do whatever on game day that you're going to do. But honestly, I don't really I don't think too highly of Odell Beckham Jr. And I do not want him in Cincinnati. That said, one guy who the Bengals are actually looking at trading is Geno Atkins, which is kind of surprising because, like, according to Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, he's somebody who is on the trading block. Now, I'm kind of surprised because, like, I think pretty much everybody knows that we're probably just going to cut him anyway. So I don't know what we would be expecting to get for Geno Atkins. But so here's my thought process for you, Thomas. What if what if the Bengals came to the Browns and offered Geno Atkins and the Bengals' second-round pick, which, by the way, don't forget, is almost because the Bengals are so high in the draft order and the Buccaneers at the end of the draft order, don't forget that would almost be like an entire round before the Buccaneers' second-round pick.
That's why I said I would love to have their first-round pick. Because that's such a low pick. It's practically a second-round pick. That'd be an interesting trade piece. And this goes why I wouldn't trade Odell, because the return doesn't really match what you would get. Even when you trade him, why would you trade him this year? Why would you trade him this year? He's probably going to come out. He can only make his value go up. He cannot make his value go any lower than what it is. Right now, he is considered, like you said, a deviant in the locker room. He's considered injury prone. He's considered all these things. And if you trade him this year, then you could get what we're talking about now is probably the highest ceiling of what you could probably get back from him. But if you wait a year at least and you allow him to try to prove himself that he's capable of playing at a competitive level, then maybe you'll be able to get a better return for him than just these, like, just second round pick. And I don't know, man. I would definitely take that over Tampa Bay for real. But I still wouldn't just want to trade him. I just wouldn't trade him. That's the whole point. Because I just can't. I just wouldn't. It doesn't make sense to trade him though. It just doesn't make sense at all.
I think it makes perfect sense, actually. I mean, like, you got, especially if you're bringing Higgins back, you got a pretty good wide receiver core, and you can go draft another wide receiver. Odell Beckham Jr. takes up a lot of salary cap space, and as we said during the season, Odell Beckham Jr. might be causing more interceptions than he's worth. So, see, I don't know. Like, I'm conflicted right now because the Bengals fan of me, and like the Bengals fan of me combined with my opinion of Odell Beckham Jr. kind of makes me want to say, like, no, you guys should keep him. Yeah, just keep Odell Beckham Jr. and that's fine. That's fine. Just make it harder on yourselves. That's fine with me. But then the Steelers hater and the guy, the one who wants the Browns to, like, do better than the Steelers in me, kind of makes me want the Browns to move on from Odell Beckham Jr. because I think he's holding you guys back.
I don't think so. I think, man, I just can never get those 4 touchdowns out of my head. I'm a sucker for what I see, and I see him, and it's gonna depend on how he comes back from the ACL injury. I mean, we are living in an age where sports medicine's at a time that has never been, and we're seeing athletes come back from these injuries better than they were before they got hurt. That ACL injury is still nothing to cough at. Hopefully he's able to come back from that injury at full strength and beyond, and hopefully still have that explosiveness when you come back. I just wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know. I just wouldn't trade. I just cannot. I don't want to trade that talent because I feel like he's going to go somewhere else that's going to click, and I feel like he's going to click no matter what next year. I think this is I think you got to see this one through.
So, what if he doesn't?
I mean, then you just cut your losses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I kind of feel like you've already seen what he's capable of, and like, yes, there are some, but this is what Odell Beckham Jr. has been for his whole career. There's some pretty insane, eye-popping flashes, but like, on the whole, it kind of seems like he just doesn't really measure up to what he's capable of most of the time.
I go back to the theory. This is the best team that Odell Beckham ever played.
Well,
this is the best team that Odell Beckham played on his entire career. And I remember I said that when Odell Beckham first came to the Browns needed him more than he needed us. We needed him to get to the next step. We needed him to bring respectability to the Browns. We needed him to bring chemistry to Cleveland and all these things above. So we felt like Odell Beckham we needed him. He was like our diamond in the rough. And then when he got hurt, the Browns started winning a lot. So then the narrative changed to he needs us more than we need him, because he never played on a team that made it to the second round of the playoffs. He never played on a team that won 11 games. So him playing for the Browns or this year, playing on the sideline or watching from the sidelines, watching his team go to the second round of playoffs, play the Chiefs, be just a touchdown away from possibly making the Super Bowl, that got to bother you as an athlete. And he had to have multiple things going through his head, because if he's a competitor, those things would bother him. If he's a competitor, it will bother him that, hey, man, like if I was on the field, we could have got that last touchdown to win the game. Or it's going to bother him as a competitor, hey, I wish I was on the field when we beat the Steelers. I wish I was there to be a part of that. It got to bother him. And that alone should be enough motivation to make sure that he plays his best football in 2021.
So going back to the trade I proposed then, would you take a high second rounder and 8-time Pro Bowler Geno Atkins to send Odell Beckham Jr. to a division rival?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with no.
No,
I would not make that trade.
I also would not make that trade. I'd
really?
maybe give you Geno Atkins in a 7th rounder, but you wouldn't take that.
Still won't take that. But if you're the Browns,
that we got for Carlos Dunlap, by the way.
If you're the Browns, you'll make that trade, though, right?
Do what?
If you're on the Browns, you'll make that trade, right?
If I was on the Browns, would I make that trade?
Yeah.
I think I would. Okay, so here's the thing about Geno Atkins that we really need to talk about as far as his trading value is considered. There's really isn't much. He like I said, I said 8-time Pro Bowler, right? But really, I was just trying to sell you on him. Like honestly, he has not been playing like an 8-time Pro Bowler. Like I mean, he made it in 2019, but honestly, I think that was just a courtesy to him. I don't think he actually really. He had more issues than I think a Pro Bowl season was worthy of last year, and then this year he just didn't do anything when he was on the field. A lot of the season he just wasn't on the field at all. But I mean, like he played a total of 8 games and only finished the season with 1 tackle. So I mean, like this is not. Like what you saw last year was not what you think of when you think of Geno Atkins. Now, if this was Geno Atkins, who you believe still has everything left in him, and you could get the most out of him, then you'd be insane not to take that deal for a second rounder in Geno Atkins. You'd be kind of an idiot. But I mean, unless you have been around the guy, which is not likely because he's because of the whole COVID quarantines and all that. it just like from an outside perspective, from basically everybody except maybe the Bengals coaching staff, Geno Atkins just maybe like I said, if I'm thinking about what I want the Bengals to get out of a trade with Geno Atkins, I'm thinking I'm okay with cutting him.
Biggest reason why I wouldn't make that trade, because I think that going to something a later topic, but the Browns still have a decent amount of salary cap room. I know that coming up, we're going to start paying Baker Mayfield and Chubb and all of them, and then we're going to start figure out how we're going to work this salary cap. With the salary cap going down, did they ever announce the official cap number yet?
I don't think they have officially announced it yet. No.
Okay, so salary cap's going down, but the Browns still have some of the highest salary cap room in the league. So you still have salary cap space. You have plenty of space to sign defensive players on 1 and 2 year deals to beef up that defense. I just don't think that. I think it's going to be really hard to find a fast receiver that can stretch the field. I mean, I know Kenny Galloway can be had, but that's if Kenny Galloway want to come play for the Browns. It's a gamble. Testing free agency is a gamble, and it's not a gamble that I want to take. You got somebody who knows your system. You got somebody who plays well with Jarvis. You got somebody who knows the locker room. And I don't really think none of the players on the team say that he's bad for the locker room. So I just don't see any reason for you to even explore that trade. So it don't make any sense at all to even trade Odell Beckham right now. But I do think that we do got to find ways to beef up that defense, and maybe not trade Odell Beckham, but there's a certain tight end I think that we should consider trading.
Is that Mr. David
Njoku? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's weird though? I'm thinking about this though. I think I'd rather trade Austin Hooper than David Njoku.
Really? But isn't David Njoku the one who wants out?
But he's cheaper.
I mean, yeah, but doesn't player satisfaction have something to do with that though?
Well, I mean,
wouldn't you want to like pay the guy who wants to be here?
I'd rather pay the better player, who I think is going to be a better player long term. I just think long term, Njoku is going to be better.
I mean, but not if he's unhappy in the city. Like, not if he's unhappy on the team. He's not gonna. Like, I feel like Austin Hooper is going to be more motivated, and it's not like Hooper isn't a good player. He's very.
Talented. No, Hooper's very good. I'll tell you how good our tight ends are. We have 3 really good tight ends. But Hooper, Hooper dropped a lot of passes. I got really mad at him last year for dropping some of those passes. He made some big catches in that game in freaking Kansas City. Maybe we shouldn't trade our tight ends. I don't know. I'm trying to think about this now, because like I don't hate none of our tight ends. Like, I really don't hate none of our tight ends, but we have so many of them. Like, we have so many tight ends. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, we could trade one. Like, if you wanna, it just makes sense. I just try to trade Hooper though, because Hooper is the highest paid tight end in the league right now. So or one of the highest paid tight ends in the league. And you got 2 other really good tight ends. You could right now you got Njoku on a contract for 1 more year, right? So maybe Njoku will be on this team 1 more year without any competition for number 1 tight end. Maybe he'll feel more comfortable with being here. And maybe we could sign him to a long-term contract. So I don't know. I think I prefer Njoku over Hooper for that reason. So I might trade Hooper.
I think you should trade Njoku.
That's crazy that sound.
I think you should trade Njoku, and I think you should trade him to the Bengals.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And I think you should take Geno Atkins in exchange for David Njoku 1-on-1.
I wouldn't be mad if they traded Njoku though. I do think they should trade one of our tight ends though. Kind of like the Indians, trade from a position of strength. I think rumor has they're probably going to draft another tight end anyway. So trade, get one of the late round tight ends. just pipe the system. So we have so many good tight ends.
Well, I will say there are some pretty. You could trade maybe even two of your tight ends because, it's not a top heavy draft for tight ends, although there is Kyle Pitts. But I think this tight end class has more depth to it than people are really giving it credit for. Like me personally, I kind of want the Bengals to go get Kenny Yeboah out of I think it's how you pronounce his name, Yeboah. Out of where is he from? Ole Miss, yeah. Kenny Yeboah out of Ole Miss, who I think I've been seeing him mostly mocked around like the 6th round. I don't know. I just I like his draft profile, and I like the very little that I've seen on tape from him. I think he could be a solid addition to the Bengals tight end room, and honestly, he could probably be a solid addition to the Browns tight end room if the Browns are wanting to move a couple of those expensive pieces. All right, so for the intent of moving locations, we are now back and we're recording. And one thing, by the way, that I never got around to asking you at the beginning of the show, Thomas, we always do a beer segment at the beginning when we can. So what are you drinking today?
Today I'm drinking a Twisted Tea Raspberry because I'm always on Twisted Tea, guys.
And I'm smacking somebody upside the head.
And you haven't noticed already how much I love Twisted Tea. And this one's a raspberry flavor.
Was good?
Yep.
Me personally, I am having myself a bit of actually an exotic wine today. It's called Jus de Cranberry.
Ooh, say it in French.
I just did. Otherwise known as cranberry juice because, again, work. Can't drink. I like cranberry juice. Actually, I actually don't like wine at all. I am not a wine person. I can do white wines to an extent, but I'm not. I'm much more of a beer person. Never really got into, especially red wines. Not really my thing. But cranberry juice, fucking delicious.
How are you from Ohio and not like wine?
What?
How are you from Ohio and not like wine?
Well, first of all, Cincinnati's a craft beer city, so.
Oh yeah, Cleveland.
I think you'd be more expected to like beer around here than wine.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I also don't like wine. I'm not gonna lie to you, but
you're from Ohio.
Well, the problem with me is my problem is with wine is I was just making a joke because the Ohio brews, like Ohio has some great wineries, especially out like in the Dayton area.
Apparently.
Yeah, they do. I know people go out there and just have a blast. But anyway, that's not here or there. I cannot drink wine because every single time I drink wine, I have a headache. But every single time I only drink wine when I'm around my female friends who gone through a breakup. So I don't know where the headache comes from. Is it from the wine or is it from the friend? You be the judge. Either way, I get a headache when it happens.
Yeah, I just I don't like the taste of wine. It's got like a weird like dry bitterness to it that I don't know. Like I'm just I don't know. My thought process is like I'm a bourbon guy. I'm a beer guy. I can do plenty of stuff like that. My thought process is if it's gonna be bitter, just like be honest about it. If you're gonna smack me in the face with bitterness, then get down into it. Stop trying to pussy around with all these like grapes and shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I sure told those wine drinkers what's what. Okay. All right. So anyway, back to what we were talking about with Odell Beckham Jr. and David Njoku and trades and tight ends. And I was talking about Kenny Yeboah. I think you had something to say about something or other.
Oh no, like we're talking about trading. You said that you should trade two of them. I think I don't know if I were to trade one, I wouldn't trade Harrison Bryant. I think that Harrison Bryant's the cheapest, and I think he has a very high upside. If I would trade on one, I think I'd still rather. I think I'd rather trade Hooper because Hooper is more expensive. Excuse me, and I think he's the worst at. I think he's gonna be the worst out of three. He might not be. He might be the best out of three. We'll see what happens.
I'm not saying
The highest
you
floor.
right. I'm not saying you necessarily have to trade two of them. I'm just saying you got some good pieces there, and you could potentially get younger and cheaper by going with one of the tight ends in this draft. Which I mean, if you really got all the options, like I said, you got a good floor if you want to use a late round pick on a tight end. But I mean, if you also want to pick early on, you guys might actually have to trade up for him. But I mean, you could go get Kyle Pitts, and from what I'm hearing, he's like you know the next Tony Gonzalez or maybe even better. Like, I mean, they're talking about this kid as maybe even a potentially just like big wide receiver, maybe not even just a tight end. So like maybe the next Gronk actually, for that matter.
Yeah, that sounds impressive.
Yeah, no, he's that's what I've been hearing. A lot of Bengals fans actually, and I don't agree with this. But a lot of Bengals fans have been talking about taking him number 5 overall, and personally, I think that's a little too early
No,
for
y'all
a
got
tight
the
end.
offensive lineman, man. Y'all got to get the
Yeah.
offensive lineman.
Well,
I
it
gotta get
depends on and actually to get to our last Bengals Browns topic to kind of nicely tie into that, but it really kind of depends on what we do in free agency because there's a lot of options. Now, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the Bengals are it sounds like what the Bengals' plan is. Now, who knows what they're actually going to do? Who knows how accurate this information is? But it sounds like right now the plan is to target Joe Tooney in free agency and draft Penei Sewell, number 5 overall. Now, first of all, you don't know if Penei Sewell is going to be there at number 5, although I've always felt like he probably will be.
Yeah, he should be there.
But at the same time, we'll see. Maybe the Dolphins pick him up. Maybe the Falcons pick him up. Maybe the Jets pick him up. Actually, really, all of those teams except I think like the Jaguars might potentially pick up Penei Sewell. Like them, the Jaguars aren't going to not take Trevor Lawrence, but
Yeah, well, so yeah, so obviously you got the Jaguars taking Trevor Lawrence. Let me see. Let me look at some mock drafts. Because I think that Trey Lance who's been getting a lot of hype.
well, there's Trey Lance, there's Zach Wilson, there's Justin
Zach
Fields.
Wilson, the one from BYU, that's the one.
Yeah.
The kid from BYU, yeah, he's getting a lot of hype. For number 2, I'm looking at this right now on CBS.com. Ryan Wilson actually have everybody agree that they think that the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson. But Ryan Wilson has Jamar Chase, receiver, going for the one from LSU going to the Dolphins. And then Kyle Pitts going to Florida, going to Atlanta. And then everybody have the Bengals taking Penei Sewell is what I'm looking at.
Well, that's the main thing. If Penei Sewell is there at number 5, it sounds like that's what the Bengals are going to do. I'm just saying there's been a lot of talk about what if the Bengals didn't feel like they were like, what if the Bengals did a good job in free agency and they brought in a tackle and a guard and they don't feel like they have to go Penei Sewell number 5 and they can go pick up like, a great weapon or something like that. So you got Bengals fans daydreaming about Jamar Chase, daydreaming about Kyle Pitts. And like I said, either one of those guys, I mean, I've heard Devontae Smith, although I don't think Devontae Smith really fits very well in the AFC North personally. I think he's a little too small.
Yeah.
I think he'd take one hit from any cornerbacker. Take one hit from any cornerback in the AFC North, and I think he's done. So I don't think Devontae Smith should end up in the AFC North. I really don't. I think Miami would probably be a much better fit for him, especially if they're going to keep trying to make Tua Tagovailoa work.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't give up on Tua yet.
I wouldn't give up on him yet either. I think Brian Flores. I really don't like Brian Flores' strategy of like benching him constantly in his rookie year. I don't think that makes any sense. I don't know if I believe Tua is going to be like a great quarterback, but I definitely think he still can be a good franchise quarterback. Like, I've got a friend who compares him to like Drew Brees all the time, and I don't know if that's going to happen. But I also don't necessarily think he's going to be like a bust. I think he might end up being like the long-term answer there in Miami, just, maybe not like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
I'm looking at these mock drafts, by the way. And the one thing that something caught my eye, by the way, 2 out of 4 analysts on CBS.com has the Eagles drafting a quarterback.
What?
2 out of 4 CBS analysts have the Eagles taking a quarterback.
Why?
What is wrong with Philadelphia?
You had an MVP quarterback, and you destroyed his confidence and moved on from him prematurely, and then maybe not prematurely based on the way he played, but I think part of the way he played was the fact that the Eagles kind of like left him for dead. And then you're just going to give up on the guy that, like all Philadelphia is going to do for the next 10 years is draft great quarterbacks who go on to like not be the greatest of all time immediately in Philadelphia. And then they're just going to go on and draft another quarterback. And they're all going to end up being good quarterbacks, but none of them are going to play for Philadelphia for more than like 4 years. Maybe Howie Roseman was serious when he was talking about wanting to be a quarterback factory. We just thought that he meant like, backup quarterbacks. No, he was talking about starting quarterbacks.
Dude, I like, as much as I love making fun of Carson Wentz because his name is Carson, I might come to the realization it wasn't Carson Wentz, it was the Eagles.
What?
And if that's true,
both.
If that's true, I'm sorry. But if y'all don't commit to Jalen Hurts, man, I hope this is just rumors. I hope these are just rumors and fabrications and just newsletters and stuff. But if y'all draft a quarterback while y'all have Jalen Hurts, I'll be so mad at y'all. I'll be so mad at you. Jalen Hurts is awesome. Like, I think Jalen Hurts is gonna be pretty good. And like, honestly, if I'm being real with you, there's been moments where I thought Jalen Hurts looked better than Tua, and I don't think the Dolphins should give him Tua. I don't think will he be better than Tua? I don't know, but there's been some games. I mean,
which is funny because Tua stole his job in Alabama.
That is funny. That's ironic. It's just funny how these quarterbacks are tied to each other. I don't know. I just can't see them doing that, right?
I find it funny how the Eagles are starting to approach like Adam Gase era Jets levels of toxicity. Like, the Eagles are soon going to be the new Jets, I think, if they keep going the direction they're going. Which no wonder Carson Wentz wanted out. And by the way, I am not going to personally not going to apologize for ripping on Carson Wentz constantly on this show. I know Thomas did it a lot more than me, but I still did it, and I don't apologize for that at all because Carson Wentz, you were trash last year. Let's just be honest, you were. Now maybe it wasn't all like, I mean, you could definitely say like there were other factors at play. The fit with the Eagles was no longer a good thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They didn't put you in a good situation. Fair enough, but you did play like trash. Let's like those highlights. That film is still on the like. You can go back and watch that film. That was trash play. That's all I got to say about that. But anyway, getting back to what I was the point of what I was trying to get to with the Bengals and Penei Sewell. The main thing that I really wanted to talk about here was actually sent out a tweet while I was on vacation because I had an idea, I had a thought about what the Bengals offensive line is kind of shaping up to be. Like I said, it sounds like they're going to pursue Penei Sewell and Joe Thuney. That's plan A. that seems like plan A right now for the offseason, which I would be totally okay with. I'd be so happy with that because that would mean our offensive line next year would be Penei Sewell, Quentin Spain, or Xavier Suafilo, depending on whoever wins that spot. Billy Price, Joe Tooney, and Jonah Williams. So what the tweet that I sent out that I asked people is that an acceptable offensive line? Is that fine, or do we need to go search for a new like interim center while Trey Hopkins is recovering? So basically, I guess my point is just like, is Billy Price good enough to fill in for that starting role while Trey Hopkins is recovering from his ACL injury? We know Joe Burrow is likely going to be back for week 1, but Trey Hopkins got injured in week 17. So it seems unlikely that he'd be back for week 1. Now, I think he's I think he's a good enough center that I don't think we should be looking to replace him straight up. But are we comfortable with Billy Price being the backup, I guess is my question. I don't think it's a bad option. I think Billy Price, especially last year when I think Zach Taylor kind of like infused him with a little bit of renewed confidence that he just kind of like completely lost previously. Not to mention bringing back Frank Pollock, the offensive line coach, and Billy Price being really excited about that. I think he'll be fine, but I've seen a lot of Bengals fans saying that we need to go pursue getting a new center, which I don't quite understand. Some people are talking about just getting a new center straight up, which I don't understand at all because, is Trey Hopkins the best center in the NFL? No, but he's good enough. And if we upgrade other parts of the offensive line, I don't see why we need to get rid of him too.
So knowing, with that said, and now you posed this question before the season was even over. You posed this thought before the season was even over. The option of trading down, I think, makes a lot of sense for Cincinnati. Here's why. There are last time I said there was 6 projected offensive linemen to go in the first round. Excuse me. It seems like there's still about 6 projected offensive linemen to be taken in the first round, but they're all projected to be taken later in the first round because people think that a lot of the experts are saying that the skill positions are going to be attractive for these high picks. So what if there's a battle for one of those receivers, either Alabama receiver, the LSU receiver, or the tight end from Florida? So what if you're able to trade with, like, hypothetically, Carolina, and they want to come up to the Bengals, and then y'all get another pick? What if that's an option?
Well, you lose out on Penei Sewell if you trade with Carolina because that's who they're going to get.
That's true. I mean, but trading down.
But then again, I actually feel like you could trade down further than that. Like I've been kind of a fan of trading down to like number 15 with like the Patriots or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the Patriots might want to go get a new quarterback, right?
Or the
and yeah, maybe you lose out on Penei Sewell at that point, but you should still have access to Rashawn Slater. And I personally felt like this whole time that Rashawn Slater, well, yes, he's not as good as Penei Sewell. I do feel like he is good enough to plug and play and be one of, your better offensive linemen right away. Maybe not as dominant as you're expecting out of Penei Sewell, but you don't really need elite offensive line play when you got Joe Burrow. You just need good enough to not get the guy hurt.
What would you trade with the football team?
Do what?
What would you trade down? What would you trade with the football team? How much would a football team be willing to give up for a quarterback?
See, I don't know because now that they're not bringing back Alex Smith,
yeah, exactly.
All they got is Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen. So
exactly,
that is a question. How much would they be willing to give up? I mean, if you're trading down to 19, you got to be getting a haul.
Oh yeah, and there's still offensive linemen that can be had.
Well, there are, although I don't know if you're trading down to 19, I feel like you're probably missing.
I wanted a first round pick.
Slater too.
Yeah, but if I'm trading out 19, I'm gonna get a second. I want that first round pick for next year.
First round pick for next year, huh?
Yeah, and that's what I want. That's the kind of that's what the
Well, I
Browns
tell
are
you
getting.
what,
That's what the Browns getting when they
without
trade him.
Alex Smith, I think the Washington football team is no longer a playoff team. They're probably not a 7-9 team anymore. So you're probably getting a pretty good pick.
Exactly. The Browns did that. The Browns did that for so many years. They kept on trading down and accumulating first round picks. So they have 2 first round picks every year. And then one year they had 3. I don't know how they blew that, man. I don't know how they blew all those picks. But I don't know.
Well, you see, that's part of the argument against trading down that people say is like, if you feel like people keep talking about Penei Sewell as this can't miss prospect. So if you genuinely believe that this guy is like, the end all be all, and he's just like going to be this great thing, why would you trade down and go pick out a bunch of, get a bunch of maybe end up with 3 first round draft picks in 1 year, and then let's say all of them suck. Looking at you, Cleveland. So like,
well, wait, hold up. When we got our 3 draft picks in 1 year was Myles Garrett, David Njoku, and Jarrell Peppers. Like, I mean, like all of them. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Didn't you have 3 first round picks a different year too?
We had the other years we had 2 first round picks. Like we had 2 first round picks with we had Johnny Manziel and Gerald Gilbert, and we had Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward. That's a great draft. No, it was Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, and then with the second round pick that we accumulated, we also had a second round pick, and we got Nick Chubb with that second round pick, with a high second round pick from the Texans, because we traded because they gave us a second round pick to take what's his name? Osweiler. Was that a quarterback's name? Yeah. And then we got Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, and Nick Chubb in 1 draft in like 35 picks. Like, you can't beat that.
That was definitely good, and I think that's part of what got the Browns where they are today. But again, the problem is you actually have to hit on these picks.
Yeah.
And the Bengals, for all of their drafting abilities in recent years, maybe not in very recent years, there have been a lot of misses, but the majority of the Bengals' hits have not really been coming in the first round. Like, especially the early first round, the Bengals have not been doing particularly well. Actually, if I can go ahead and probably make myself sound like an egg if I'm wrong about that, but first round draft picks of the Bengals in the top, let's just call it top, well, let's start with the top 5 in their whole career. Most recently, Joe Burrow, pretty good pick, right? See, the most recent ones since then, well, there was John Ross. He was number 9, for what that's worth. That was a terrible pick. AJ Green, number 4, so that worked out pretty well. But before that, you had Andre Smith, number 6, Keith Rivers, number 9. And Keith Rivers was a pretty good pick, but he kind of like fell apart and it didn't really work out so well in the end. But Andre Smith was like, I mean, he stuck around for a while, but he wasn't very good. Carson Palmer, number 1 overall. Justin Smith, number 4. Peter Warrick, number 4, the year in 2000. Achilles Smith, number 3 overall. Kajana Carter, number 1 overall. Dan Wilkinson, number 1 overall. John Copeland, number 5 overall. So, I mean, you're getting the idea here. Now, a lot of those bad picks. Ricky Dixon, number 5 overall in 88. Jesus Christ, that was a bad pick. He, as I recall, he completely refused to even play for us. Yeah, Ricky Hundley, number 7. Or maybe that was the guy, Ricky Hundley. Yeah, Ricky Hundley was the one who refused to play for us. So that was number 7 overall in 1984. Then there was Anthony Munoz, number 3 overall. Jack Thompson was a quarterback we picked in number 3 overall in 1979. Eddie Edwards was a pretty good defensive end. We got him number 3. But he like, for the most part, Sherman White, number 2 overall in 1972. For the most part, I mean, there have been some hits, but there have been a lot of misses for the Bengals early in the first round. So it's just like, what are we really trading for if we trade for like, a top draft pick?
Yeah.
And again, you could also make the argument, what are we keeping it for, considering our history too, because it's still a top 5 pick.
I mean, I think that you have a better chance of I think you have a better ratio of hitting. I think that there's some good offensive linemen in this draft. I think there are multiple good offensive linemen in the draft. I think that trading down and maybe taking one of these later round offensive linemen might help grow your team long term. I'm thinking of long term, man. I think that this would be a great opportunity long term for y'all. I think having 2 first round picks next year would be like trading down with Washington for a first round pick next year.
Right.
I think that might be it. That could be a very golden opportunity to propel your franchise to the next level. Because you think about it, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I don't think the Bengals are going. I wouldn't bet on the Bengals going to the Super Bowl this year. I think they might make the playoffs, but I wouldn't bet them going to the Super Bowl next year. But I think that if you were to hypothetically get like just a mid to late round first pick, and you use that on offensive linemen, and you have possibly a player in a first round pick for next year because Washington decided to give y'all a haul for your 5th pick. I think that could grow your team a lot faster and build your team better for the long term. Because having 2 first round picks next year after establishing a team identity will actually help the team way farther down the road than just drafting one offensive lineman this year. That's just my opinion. I think that you guys when you have your quarterback and you're in the top 5, I think trading down is definitely a thing to do.
That is true. Although I will say, if Penei Sewell actually ends up being as good as some people think he's going to be, I can understand why people would be nervous about, not just like trying to get too cute about it and not just picking the guy who's like the obvious win.
I mean, keep in mind, the Browns had Joe Thomas for 10 years, and he didn't go to a single playoff.
That's true.
Just remember that. Just remember that.
Well, and the Bengals had Willie Anderson for how many years and never did anything?
I mean, it's not that I don't value offensive line, because offensive line is very important. But for me, it's not just, you can't just have one good offensive lineman. You have to have a committee.
I will say though, you had Joe Thomas.
Oh, we have a great offensive line.
Years and years and years playing on Browns teams that were just like anemic, but you also didn't have a quarterback. That's part of it. You had like no offense at all. The offense was Joe Thomas, and he was not offensive lineman.
We got a running back. We had Peyton Hillis for a minute, and he got strep throat, and that ended his career. By the way, I've had strep throat twice in my life, and never have I thought to myself, man, I could never ever play football again after having this. Oh my God, he got strep throat, and that ended his career. He was on a Madden cover.
Is that what happened?
He got strep throat and it ended his career. I kid you not. Like, that's literally, so it's the year after he was on the Madden cover, right? And then he missed like 3 weeks in a row because he had strep throat. Like, he just like was just not playing. Like, it was just horrible. Dude's a troll. Like,
I mean, I guess that explains like how a guy who ended up being, as productive as he was when he was at his most productive, ended up going undrafted in the first place, because there's red flags like that of like, oh wait, does this guy actually want to play football?
Nah, I mean, look, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I wasn't in that locker room, so I don't know what exactly happened. But apparently, this is an article from 2011. Agent Peyton Hillis was 2-6 to play. Cleveland Fair, and Peyton Hillis was weakened from strep throat and could risk injury. His agent advised Browns about bruising and him not playing against Miami. That was October 5th, 2011. And I think he missed like without mistake, I think he missed like 2 or 3 games because of strep throat. He was 25, by the way. This 25-year-old man can't play football for 3 weeks because he got strep throat. Now, again, I've had strep throat. I know how horrible it is. Like, strep throat is horrible. But it didn't put me on the sideline for 3 weeks. More like a week, maybe, but not 3 weeks. Dude, what?
He played for like, let's see. I mean, like, what was that? Was that 2011 when that happened?
Yeah, 2011, 2012 season. That was the year he was on the Madden cover. You're on the Madden cover, dude.
He only stuck with the same team once after that happened. Like he only spent more than one season with the same team once after that happened, and that was the Giants at the very end of his career.
But like, you got voted on the Madden cover though. Like come on, like the fans voted for you to be on the Madden cover. I got strep throat. You big winky idiot.
At the end of the year, Hillis stated he wanted to re-sign with the Browns, even willing to offer a hometown discount. But the Browns never made him an offer and allowed him to leave as a free agent to Kansas City. Like, no shit. They were probably like, oh, well, we're worried he might get strep throat again. We're worried his throat might not be able to handle the game of football.
He was untackleable, man. That dude was a beast.
And he didn't even do anything in Kansas City either. I think he ran for like according to this, he ran for 309 yards and 85 carries.
Strep throat ruined that man's career. I'm about to tweet that right now. Who remembers when strep throat ruined Hillis' career? I'm gonna tag him in that tweet too. Man.
He retired in 2015 due to his doctor's recommendation, although this time because of concussions, so that's a little bit different.
That's serious. That's serious.
Hillis also claimed in an interview, as far as NFL football goes, my heart's just not in it anymore. Are you sure your heart was in it in 2011?
You
love football so much that you're able to make yourself into one of the best players in the entire world, then you think you'd love it enough to play your strep throat.
He was a beast too. Like, he was like the first like white running back to like hit it over 1,000 yards in like something crazy, like 10 years, something crazy like that when he did it. And I mean, now we got Chris McCaffrey, but like he had 1,200 yards. Like, you had 1,200 rushing yards in the NFL. Like, that's not a fluke. Like, you did something right on a Browns team for that. Like, he was like, you watch those like tapes from 2010, 2011. Man, he was just busting through people.
No, I remember when he started his career in Denver, and that first year, I thought that he was going to be he didn't do a lot, but he did pretty good for like a 7th round rookie. And I was like, oh, maybe this Broncos team's got a good running back, and then he just ends up traded to Cleveland out of nowhere, and then he just ends up blowing up. And I was so pissed off by that, by the way. I was like, no, you can't do that.
He was a beast, man. He was like so fun to watch too. That guy, that's so frustrating when somebody has that much potential and they just waste it. I mean, he still reps the Browns, so there's that. He still reps the Browns, so that's good. Probably because he had his best career at the Browns. He still reps. I shouldn't.
Anyway, moving on, because we're starting to kind of ramble here about Peyton Hillis, which, maybe a couple of Browns fans watching this podcast might be interested in this conversation, but for the most part, I think we're just boring the hell out of everybody. So anyway, we do kind of need to go ahead and wrap this up, but before we do that, let's talk about the state of the rest of the AFC North. So, not a whole lot of news going on. You do got the Steelers most likely at this point. It's actually being reported that the Steelers are not going to use the franchise tag on Bud Dupree. And
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Now, Bud Dupree was, as a Kentucky Wildcats fan, Bud Dupree was one of my favorite players in college at the time, and I was livid when he ended up with the Steelers. I was like, no, that sucked. But
Hopefully, become Brown.
Maybe he could come home. Maybe he could come home to the what do you even call that? Like the Cincinnati area?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the one who's from Kentucky, Natty.
Yeah, well, you know. Anyway, I think he would look. He would do really good. I think in the Bengals scheme, since they've been kind of switching to more of like a base defense lately. I think you don't really know what you're getting out of him. It's kind of the same thing with Geno Atkins. He got injured, and since the injury, he just really hasn't quite. Well, okay, no, it's actually quite. It was actually the opposite. His play kind of declined in 2020, and then he tore his ACL, and so now you really don't know what he's going to come back as. And I think that's the main reason why the Steelers are just kind of like, despite the fact that he had kind of a good run with the Steelers, I think that's why they're not really bothering to bring him back. Because, I mean, they got 5 good years out of him, and then the 6th one didn't turn out so well. And just kind of wondering what's going to go on with him. But I think anybody in the AFC North would be happy to have Bud Dupree on their team. I'd like for it to be Cincinnati, but, we'll see.
I just tweeted at Peyton Hillis.
Call him a troll.
Like, if he responds to this, I just like there's no way he's not gonna see that. Nobody's tweeting at that dude. Like, nobody's tweeting at that dude. So he's definitely gonna see that. He's definitely gonna see that. So
what did you tweet?
I said, who remembers when strep throat ended Peyton Hillis' career? Laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. If he responds to that, first of all, I'm a troll for that.
You're a dick for
that. I enjoy your podcast, Peyton Hillis. Before you sue me or make a diss track about me, come at me, Peyton Hillis.
Does he have a podcast?
Something like that. Let me just. Well, his Twitter page is decked out of on freaking Brown stuff. It says in the backfield with Peyton Hillis and Keith Migran. I don't know who that is.
Wait, so Peyton Hillis is a Browns fan? Is that how that works?
I guess, like, he had his best career year with the Browns.
Well, yeah, but he's got otherwise nothing to do with the Browns. He's from Arkansas.
Yeah, but he had 12,000 yards in a Browns uniform. He's on a Madden cover in a Browns uniform.
That's great for his 2010 season. I don't know.
We call Peyton Hillis your trash. Anyway, I'm sorry. Back to Doug Dupree.
Well, but that's pretty much all I got to say. Like I said, there's almost no news coming out of either the Steelers or the Ravens camp this week. But there is that about Bud Dupree. I would love to see him. I'd love to see the Bengals give him a chance in Cincinnati to kind of revitalize something. I think pairing him with Carl Lawson would make for a scary combination. I don't know if it would happen, but I do know that the Bengals need to bring in some edge help, and free agency might be the way to do it. So I think you could potentially maybe get Bud Dupree a little cheaper than you get some of the other top name edge rushers just because of that ACL injury.
Yeah, you probably get. I would love for him to be in the Browns uniform. Love for him to be in the Browns uniform. Just taking another team's player like they did Joe Hayden. You think we get Joe Hayden?
But Joe Hayden wasn't Joe Hayden's not any good anymore.
Yeah, I know, but they took.
I mean, he is. He's fine, but like when Joe Hayden was on the Browns, he was like, he was a threat. Like when you were talking about going to play the Browns, you always talked about Joe Hayden and the Browns. It wasn't like Colt McCoy and the Browns. It was Joe Hayden and the Browns. And this and like when y'all got rid of him and when he went to Pittsburgh, he became like, an average backup cornerback after that. Like, what the hell happened to him?
You know what the best part is? The Browns won a playoff game before he did.
Also, didn't you guys cut him?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So what do you mean? The
Jackson.
Steelers did not steal Joe Hayden. You guys cut him.
Well, he didn't have to go to Pittsburgh, though. He didn't have to leave us to go to Pittsburgh.
You cut him.
But he didn't have to go to Pittsburgh, though.
But you cut him. Like he's probably salty.
When I break up with you, I don't want you to go with my rival.
I was honestly, I was dumbfounded that you guys cut him. I'm like, he's your best player. I mean, even now, he would be a really good player for the Browns to have. I did not understand that move at all.
All I'm saying, Rashard Higgins, when you lead the Browns, Rashard, do not go to like the Bengals or the Steelers or the Ravens. I love you, Rashard. You retweeted my tweet, but please don't go to like the Bengals, the Ravens, or the Steelers. Please don't do that, Rashard. Don't do that, Rashard.
I mean,
you probably fit in.
We could
fit in great with Cincinnati, though. Oh, he would fit in great with Cincinnati. If I'm being real with you, Rashard Higgins is perfect for Cincinnati, actually, because
except everybody get him confused with T. Higgins.
Well, yeah, I mean they'd be the Higgins brothers. But I think he'd be great for Cincinnati because, like, you think about it, right? Rashard Higgins haven't dropped the ball all year, right? And he's a very crisp route runner, just like T. Higgins. But T. Higgins, he's faster. He's more of a speedy receiver, somebody who stretches out the field. But Higgins would be a great receiver, just a possession receiver, a receiver that can push the ball downfield, but they'll always be there as a reliable threat. He will help Joe Burrow out a lot. Because he's so reliable.
Yeah, that sounds like Higgins.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And then just imagine Rashard Higgins would be a great addition. He's just elevate your receiver room. Like I think Rashard Higgins, T. Higgins. Honestly, like, if you're Cincinnati, if I'm Cincinnati, I would try and get Rashard Higgins because he won't be that expensive and he'd be a great receiver to add to your receiver room. I would do it if I'm Cincinnati.
I certainly wouldn't mind that. I liked Rashard Higgins in Cleveland. I think he'd be a good fit here. I doubt it would happen.
But don't go to Cincinnati, Rashard. Don't do that to me.
Are you guys not going to resign him?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's unfortunate for you. All right, so the last little bit of AFC North stuff that we have to talk about is, by the way, if you haven't heard, Dak Prescott signed a very large contract. Everybody in the world has heard about that 15 million times now. But if you haven't heard, it was $164 million. So, that's a lot of money. And the reason why I bring that up is because
it should have been signed up.
Well, yeah, they probably should have already signed him a while ago. But part of the reason I bring that up is because that is we're starting to set a precedent for how much quarterbacks are worth now. Because, I mean, you had Patrick Mahomes get that, like, mega deal. But now you got Dak Prescott, who's, like, I mean, I wouldn't say he's, like, an average. He's definitely an above-average quarterback, but I wouldn't say he's, like, a top 10 quarterback necessarily. Or maybe if he is top 10, he's, like, number 10, And so you got like that affects the Baltimore Ravens because they got it kind of affects the Cleveland Browns too, although not quite as much because Baker Mayfield doesn't play the same role in that offense as Dak Prescott plays for the Cowboys. Because Dak Prescott is the Cowboys offense. Whereas the Browns have so much more going on.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't need to sign Baker for nearly as much as the Cowboys got Dak for. But the Ravens are now potentially in a bit of a tough position with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, they are.
This year, 2021, is the last year of his rookie deal. And the Ravens are probably going to have to pay him a lot of money. I mean, like, look at the precedent that's being set for these quarterback contracts. And if the Ravens want to keep Lamar Jackson, which they kind of need to.
And he did win an MVP.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's got a playoff win and an MVP season under his belt in his first 4 years.
Something that Dak Prescott doesn't have.
Right. So, I mean, Lamar Jackson, like Dak Prescott, has been, somewhat inconsistent over his 3 years. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, I don't think it makes you wonder whether the Ravens would be willing to sign him. I think the Ravens would be willing to pay him whatever he wants. But the problem is, I think he can command a lot, and I don't know if he's like if like part of the reason the Ravens have been able to do so much with Lamar Jackson so far is because he's been playing on a rookie contract. So can you imagine Lamar Jackson basically having to carry the Ravens by himself because the Ravens can't really afford to surround him with talent? I
Man,
don't think it's going to be as I don't think it's going to be as exciting as it has been.
dude, I would be so scared to sign Lamar Jackson to a long-term contract
Exactly, that's my thought process.
because he takes so many hits.
Well, there's that too. Yeah,
Like in even his prime now, but 3 years make a lot of difference. Man, and like his game is based off his athleticism, not his arm. I don't wish nothing on nobody because I love it when Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson go at each other. But man, I, I would be terrified to lock him up on a long-term deal. I would be terrified to lock that man up on a long-term deal. Hey, that's something they got to do. That's a marriage they're stuck with. Man, I hope they. Well, I hope they win the Super Bowl, but excuse me, they don't got a large window with Lamar Jackson. By the way,
I don't know. I feel like re-signing Lamar Jackson, kind of like Dak Prescott, you're taking a huge risk as to what exactly Lamar can do by himself. Because we know Lamar Jackson can make a lot of crazy plays by himself. But is that partially because the Ravens have so many weapons that other teams have to pay attention to?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, granted, they've been doing a lot without the world's greatest wide receiver core, but I mean, they've been bringing in guys like, Mark Ingram. They've got, offensive linemen they're paying.
J.K.
I don't know,
Dobbin,
what?
J.K. Dobbin.
Well, J.K. Dobbin, but that was a
Mark
guy they brought in
Andrews.
the draft, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the Ravens' ability to surround Lamar Jackson with talent is going to be severely compromised when they have to re-sign him. And if it's going to look something like the contract that Dak got, that doesn't bode well for Lamar. It's not like it's not like signing Patrick Mahomes where you can basically just let him loose and he can take you to the Super Bowl virtually by himself. Now we saw he couldn't necessarily win the Super Bowl by himself. Although even then he still had like Tyreek Hill and, Travis Kelce and, the weapons were definitely not the problem. It was just, the offensive line, which wasn't doing so good for the Chiefs. But anyway, like I said, the point being that I don't know if you can really expect Lamar Jackson to continue to be an MVP caliber quarterback, like a top 5 quarterback, if you're paying him what the Ravens are going to have to pay him to keep him around.
By the way, the Browns have released defensive end Adrian Claiborne.
Oh, that must have just happened.
Yeah. That happened this afternoon. It happened probably while we was on air.
Yeah. So I didn't see it earlier when I was looking for news stories before.
I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
I'm not sure. You mentioned actually before we started recording that the Browns were not bringing back Ogunjobi, right?
I don't think they are. That's not confirmed. I don't think they are. But if you're releasing Claiborne, maybe bring him back.
You pretty much have to bring back Ogunjobi if you're not back Claiborne.
Claiborne, yeah, you have to. You would think, right? I think they were though. That's not written in stone to bring back Ogunjobi or not. But everybody I listened to said that like there's a good chance that Ogunjobi doesn't come back. But I'm with you. You get rid of Adrian Claiborne, you got to bring back Ogunjobi. I know Higgins not coming back either. I don't think Higgins come back either.
Tell you one thing, Ogunjobi is one of those guys who, whenever I'm doing like a like a Madden run through in for the Bengals, Ogunjobi's always one of those guys who I end up going to get because I think he actually fits really well over here. So if you guys don't re-sign him,
don't say that. Stop taking my players. I love my.
I mean, the other guys we've mentioned are all speculation, but Ogunjobi's legitimately somebody who I would personally target if I was a general manager for the Bengals.
I think a lot of people want to target him if the Browns let him go.
That's also true. He's a pretty good player.
You're right. I think they should. They can't just let all these players go on defense. I know our defense was bad last year, but like you still have to keep some blue chippers, right? You gotta keep Joby. You gotta just add on what you have. But
Especially
if you're
rid of Claiborne.
Especially if you're getting rid of Claiborne. Especially if you're getting rid of Claiborne. Yeah. Let's see what happens. It's all reckless speculation at this point, right?
Pretty much. I think we have gone a little bit over as far as how long we need to be going on this, though. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate all of you listening to the Battle of Ohio podcast. Me and Thomas both very much appreciate it. If you want to follow us any further, you can always go check out our Facebook page. You can find me on social media at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter and Facebook.com/ThePhelps. You can find Thomas at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram. And he's got a YouTube page called Blowdown Page.
Yeah.
There's comedy videos, Black Baker Mayfield. You were doing a Black History Month thing there for a minute, were you?
Yep, I did.
Was that on
Black
YouTube?
History. I did on YouTube and on TikTok and Instagram, put it everywhere.
Okay, well, there you go. So yeah, follow Thomas for some other good stuff. Follow me if you want to talk more about the Bengals and pretty much just the Bengals. I don't really talk too much about the Browns on social media, unless it's shots because fuck your team. Anyway,
fuck your team too.
Yeah. Just fuck all the teams that aren't the Bengals. That's the way I see it. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. And Pittsburgh, keep making those delicious sandwiches and keep remembering that your team still sucks. Who dey?
Pittsburgh still sucks. Go Browns.
So Adam Schefter report coming out saying the Bengals are not going to re-sign Carl Lawson, not going to franchise tag him. So I guess my only hope here is, I really hope that means that a deal's coming, but most likely that means that he's going to be a free agent and he's not going to be a Cincinnati Bengal anymore. Well, we better use that tag on Carl Lawson, huh? Or sorry, on William Jackson. Better use that franchise tag on William Jackson because, we cannot lose both of them. And if we're gonna let Carl Lawson walk, what in the hell are we gonna do on the defensive line? I don't know. But me and Thomas were just talking about Bud Dupree on the podcast, and so that's an option. Sam Hubbard, not terrible. I think he's more of a rotational type guy who can come in and do something every once in a while, but I don't think he's going to be the kind of guy who we want as our starting edge rusher. So, I don't know. Maybe Bud Dupree, maybe they got their eye on somebody good in the draft, and they think that Carl Lawson's just too expensive because of the injuries. But fuck, man, that's just not. I don't know what we're thinking we're going to do. We're creating a need for ourselves in the draft. That's what we're doing. But I can't believe